Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Reaver Common Sense, making sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, Conservative media done right. Tonight's show is about cracks in the narrative, cracks in party unity, and cracks in media credibility, and cracks in the carefully constructed illusion that the political class depends on to keep you confused. That's where we're going to start. We're watching a Democrat senator break ranks on national security. Ooh, what the heck? Oh, I hate when I leave Facebook up and running. We're watching corporate media outlets hemorrhage viewer after years of pushing stories that collapsed under scrutiny. We're watching economic numbers that don't match the doom and gloom headlines, and we're watching the permanent political class panic when their talking points stop working. And we have such an example because up on SHR Media, we did an article today on the tariffs. And of course, we have the bots running and going, it's a lie, it's a lie. Never giving any facts, never backing up, just screaming it's a lie. And this isn't random, it's a pattern. When institutions lose trust, they don't collapse all at once, they erode. Ratings dropped, messaging fractures, allies start freelancing, and suddenly the United Front looks more like a circular firing squad. Tonight, we're connecting those dots. No slogans, no emotional manipulation, just facts, receipts, and a little common sense. But before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense. Tonight, we're going to try a different format. So hopefully I'll get through all the articles or subjects, I should say. I keep calling them articles, and they're not articles. But there's also a chance I can get through all of it and it be underneath an hour because it's a new style I'm doing, new format. So I'm not exactly sure on the timing. So if I come up short tonight, sorry, guys, it happens. And we're down to the wire. It's Friday, February 13th. Don't forget tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Make sure you get your lovely, lovely wife, girlfriend, significant other, something nice. But don't forget the clock is ticking towards midnight. As it stands right now, we're staring down a full-blown shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Now, the mainstream media is already sharpening their knives, getting ready to blame the administration for chaos. But let's use some common sense. This isn't about lack of money. It's about a lack of will in D.C. to prioritize the one thing they are actually constitutionally required to do: protect the sovereignty of this nation. The sticking point is simple. The administration is demanding that any funding for the DHS must be tied to strict enforcement and the continuation of border, wall, and remain in Mexico policies. Meanwhile, the holdouts in the Senate are playing a dangerous game of chicken, trying to strip those enforcement mechanisms out before they sign the check. And here's the kicker. The Senate has officially checked out. They've convened until Tuesday, leaving D.C. for the weekend without passing a deal. They're essentially walked away from the table while the Department of Homeland Security is on the brink of going dark at midnight. It's the ultimate Friday afternoon move from a group of people who are more concerned with their weekend plans than the security of the American border. If the clock hits 12 and the lights go out, we aren't just talking about office workers staying home. We're talking about the men and women on the front line, the Border Patrol, ICE, well, not exactly ICE, we'll get to that in a minute, and Coast Guard, being told to hold the line without a paycheck. It is the height of performative politics. And this is where John Fetterman comes in. We're going to get into more with Fetterman later on. A guy we usually disagree with on almost everything. Even he sees the writing on the wall, railing against his own party plan to let the department go dark, and being the only Democrat to vote in favor of moving the funds forward. When even the senator of Pennsylvania is telling you that a shutdown is a disaster for national security, you know the progressive wing has officially lost the plot. They want to shut down so they can point at the border and call it a failure. But the American people see through the smoke. They know that if the border isn't secure, the country isn't secure. Whether the lights stay on at DHS tonight or not, the mission doesn't change. But the accountability for the people playing games with our safety starts right now. All right, let's do a common sense check here. While the talking heads on the other channels are busy hyperventilating about DHS shutdown, let's look at what's actually happening behind the curtain. They want you to think the gates are being left wide open at midnight, but the reality is exactly the opposite. Here are the facts the mainstream media is conveniently ignoring. The border stays locked down. Despite the shutdown, ICE and Border Patrol are fully operational. And here's why. Last year, we saw the passage of the one big, beautiful bill. This wasn't just a budget, it was a fortress. It provided ICE with roughly $75 billion and CBP, Custom Border Patrol, with $65 billion in dedicated mandatory funding that isn't tied to this annual DC food fight. The irony, because this money is already in the bank and available through 2029, ICE doesn't need a single dime from the Senate to keep deportations moving. In fact, they have enough in their treasure chest to continue operations for years without congressional approval. So in other words, ICE, which is the reason that the Democrats are shutting this down, they got an issue with ICE. So they're shutting DHS down, but ICE is still funded. Custom Border Patrol is still funded. They're still getting checks. They're still getting paid. Let's make this crystal clear. ICE is completely shutdown proof. The media wants you to think the deportation force is being defunded by the shutdown. It's the exact opposite. Under the one big, beautiful bill, ICE received 7 times its typical annual budget. This money stays available regardless of whether Congress passes a budget or not. While the Senate Democrats are busy posturing for reform, the funding that actually drives the enforcement mission is already secure. ICE will keep arresting, detaining, and deporting without missing a beat. DHS is a massive machine with over 270,000 employees, and the mass majority, between 91% and 95%, are deemed essential. Still on the job. Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, TSA officers, the Secret Service, and the Coast Guard. The catch, while they are required to stay at their post to protect life and property, some of them will be doing it without a paycheck until the Senate decides their weekend retreat and get back to work Tuesday. If the media wants to find a victim, it's not at the border. It's at the airport and the administration office. TSA and travel. While screeners report for duty, morale drops when the checks stop. That leads to sick outs, which means you'll be the one feeling the shutdown when they're standing in the 3-hour security line on Monday morning. FEMA and the Coast Guard. These agencies do feel the pinch. Training and state reimbursement for disaster projects are usually the first things to get frozen. Furloughs primarily hit the DC auditors and policy wonks. The gatekeepers are still at the fence. It's the paper pushers who will get the unpaid vacations. The narrative is designed to make you panic. The facts show that the enforcement machine is still running, even if the politicians are asleep at the wheel. John Fetterman just broke ranks in a way his party cannot ignore. And we're going to have a couple segments about John Fetterman. While many Democrats search for diplomatic off-ramps with Tehran, he openly said he would support military strikes and suggests he may be the only one in his caucus willing to do so. He has reminded colleagues that he previously backed actions against Iran's nuclear program and sees the threat as real, not rhetorical, not rhetoric. In his view, allowing a hostile regime to obtain a nuclear weapon is unacceptable, and hesitation only weakens deterrence. He also pushed back on efforts to cripple DHS, arguing that targeting ICE for politics leaves agencies like the Coast Guard, TSA, cybersecurity exposed. At the same time, he dismissed impeachment talks over limited strikes as overreach that cheapens the terms. Who would have known that a stroke would have woke this guy up? That a stroke would straighten out this woke liberalism that is infesting the Democrat Party beyond belief. It's like 61% of the Democrat Party has said that they are too far to the left. This is not rhetoric. It is a poll, I believe, out of CNN. What makes this moment significant is not just the policy position, but the political isolation. And a caucus that often prizes unity above divergence, Fetterman is signaling that national security sits above party discipline. That stance carries consequences, especially when leadership prefers calibrated messages over blunt declarations. His comments also expose a deeper divide with the Democrat coalition. Progressive members frame escalation as reckless and unconstitutional, while Fetterman frames inaction as dangerous complacency. That philosophy split is no longer subtle. It is now public and unmistakable. Moreover, its willingness to acknowledge military force as a viable option reshapes the internal debate. Instead of arguing over whether forces should even be mentioned, the conversation shifts to when and how it would be justified. That reframing alone alters the leverage inside closed-door meetings. Finally, Fetterman appears to be positioning himself as a Democrat comfortable occupying uncomfortable ground. Whether that strengthens his influences or marginalizes him remains to be seen. However, it's clearly signal that on issues he views as essential, he is prepared to stand apart rather than fall in line. Fetterman is separating himself from the party line and signaling he will back what he believes protects national security, even if he stands alone. Now, we always hear that Democrats are country over party. Fetterman is actually walking the walk. And how he's being treated shows that the Democrats are the party for the party. The way they treat him proves that. They are not out for the betterment of the country. They are out for the betterment of the party. Period. Now, the next segment, let's pop up a video for you. I know I should have had this up beforehand. This is why I need a producer. Let's get down. All right.
Having any meaningful functional impact on ICE because they have unlimited money effectively for right now, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to punish all of these other parts, the very important parts of our government, TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, and cybersecurity. That's what kind of a statement if we announce to our enemies, like, well, our cybersecurity agency, now we're going to be shut down. If I really want to make a move, that probably makes it better. And then, so is that a accurate statement?
It's a fair assessment, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now here I am. Here I am, a Democrat, and I think I ran the whole gamut. You know, I met with Secretary Noem, and I've always treated her with respect. I met with her in my office, and I refused, and I never will engage on the kinds of sexist kinds of terms like Ice Barbie from a lot of the left media. Having any.
Damn. I'm going to give him credit. I have said I will give credit where credit is due, even if it is a Democrat. I have no issue with that. Yes, I consider myself a conservative. But if someone is right, they are right, whether I like them or not. And what he's talking about is dead on. It is spot on. And I like the fact that he's calling out the left for attacking the female. You know, if a conservative did that, the outrage. Oh, my God. The fake outrage that would be coming out. It's so many of us are getting tired of it. Time and time again. It's refreshing to see a Democrat come out and talk like that. I do not agree with him on everything. But I'll agree with him on the Iran strikes. He backs Israel, and he's backing that we don't shut down. They're punishing and causing this issue, and it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't stop anything. But let's move on to, as I was saying, that rare moment of clarity from the halls of Senate. Fetterman, the same man who used to be the darling of the far left, is raising hell about the Department of Homeland Security. And reports circulating on social media, as we just saw, Fetterman is railing against plans for a DHS shutdown. Look, regardless of how you feel about the man's hoodie collection, he is touching on a point of common sense that his own party seems to have forgotten. Fetterman is essentially pointing out the insanity of hampering the very agencies responsible for border security and national defense while we are in the middle of a global security crisis. He's calling out the performative politics of his colleagues who would rather see a department shuttered than have to deal with the reality of enforcement. It's an interesting pivot. We've seen Fetterman distance himself from the progressive label over the last year, especially regarding Israel and border security. Now that he's standing in the gap, warning that DHS shutdown isn't just a budget hiccup, it's a threat to the security of every American. When you have a senator from Pennsylvania sounding more like a border hawk than a Berkeley activist, you know the tide is turning. It's about accountability. It's about realizing that you can't run a country on slogans and shutdown threats. You actually have to fund the people who hold the line. What makes this even more significant is the border political signal it sends. When a Democrat publicly warns against weakening border and homeland security infrastructure, it forces the debate back to substance instead of slogans. It undercuts the idea that enforcement is somehow extreme and reframes it as a basic functioning of governing. And that's the real story here. This isn't just about one funding fight or one news cycle. It's about whether Washington is finally waking up to the reality that national security cannot be treated as a bargaining chip. If that realization is starting to cross party lines, even cautiously, then the political landscape may be shifting in ways few expected. And we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy of a political warfare. And we're only peeling back the first layer.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe, and here to make sense out of the senseless. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. You're listening to the Reaver of Common Sense right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. I'm sitting here snickering because I don't often look into the chat because the leftists are just... they are who they are. But I had one ask me, why do I think I'm that important? I don't think I'm important. What I'm doing is using my constitutional right to express my political opinions and talk about political issues and news issues. And it just says, if you wanted to, you can go get on the programs and do your own version if you wanted to. That is your right. And then you got other people that come in the chat to just run their mouths. They get warned, be respectful. And it seems like they take it as a badge of how quick can they get timed out. We haven't really banned anybody yet, but we time you out if you're going to be disrespectful. If you want to talk about the issues, you want to disagree, that's perfectly fine. But don't disrespect the moderators. They're here doing a job. And they don't need to put up with your abuse. Be respectful. Have a conversation. Have fun. All right. What are we going to talk about next? For years, the corporate media has tried every trick in the book to link Donald Trump to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. They whispered. They hinted. They flat out lied to try and paint him with the same dirty brush. But the truth has a funny way of coming out, and lately the narrative is falling apart in spectacular fashion. I know I'm going to get people jumping in the chat. The liberals, oh, he's a pedo, he's a pedo, he's a pedo. No, he isn't. A bombshell new document has surfaced, and this has been talked about for years now. Years. And even ABC News, of all places, was forced to admit on national TV Donald Trump was actually one of the first people to contact the police regarding the Epstein investigation. Think about that for a second. While other powerful political figures were busy flying on their private jets and visiting the private island, Trump was picking up the phone to help law enforcement. We had victim after victim come forward and say that Donald Trump was there to help them. This isn't just a minor detail. It's a complete reversal of the story the media has been trying to sell for a decade. Sorry about that. The documents have shown that he wasn't part of the inner circle. He was the one trying to help blow the whistle. This is why we talk about the media hoaxes. They spent years trying to imply guilt by association, but they conveniently left out the part where Trump cooperated with the police. They leave out that, yes, he's named God knows how many times in the file. Epstein signed up for a Trump newsletter. So his name pops up in that newsletter. And that's what people can't get through their heads. And this is why I'm getting tired, because it's nothing more than a political game at this point. They don't want to know facts. They just want to try to smear people with this. They ignore Jeffrey Epstein having dinner after Epstein was convicted. They have Harkham Jeffrey, Democrat leader, having dinner with Epstein afterwards, begging Epstein for money. They don't talk about him. You had a Democrat texting Epstein after he was convicted. Everybody knew who Epstein was then. But the Democrats still kept begging him for help, begging for his money. How to get Trump. They ignore all that. And then you have the Democrats running out there and giving misleading statements. And quietly correcting their statements. It has been turned into a political football, and it's not about the victims anymore. If Democrats were serious, they would have went after Biden and had Biden expose this. If Trump was in these files, as they try to imply he is, that list would have been exposed years ago. They have tried to do everything they can to get this man, to damage this man, to impeach this man. They created crimes to try to get him. They created impeachments to get this man. And you think they wouldn't expose that data if he was actually in those files? If he was actually convicted or accused? They would expose that years ago. Yes, I know there's that one woman that came forward and it was already deemed a hoax long time ago. They keep rehashing disproven bullshit. This is why I have no respect for these idiots that come into the chat and spew that shit. Because you're not talking serious. You're only there to try to rile people up, or you're just trying to spread blatant, proven disinformation. And if you don't like what I say, the facts are the man's not in it. You just don't like the man, so you're trying to ruin the man. And don't give me Massey and Rohan, because they went out there and they named 6 names on the floor. 4 of them had nothing to do with it. The 4 men were used in an FBI lineup as fake suspects. They had nothing to do with Epstein. They were used in a lineup. And they went out there and lied. Used these people's name that have nothing to fucking do with it. That's how stupid Massey is. That's how stupid Rohan is. That's how stupid this whole situation has gotten. I feel sorry for the victims. Because their plight is being used as the political football to try to get Donald J. Trump. You don't care about victims. Everyone that comes into the chat room screaming, pedo, pedo, pedo. Fuck you. You don't give a shit about these victims. You only care because you don't like Donald Trump. Because he's making your side look like a bunch of children. Blue-haired freaks that are running around crying because they ain't getting their goddamn way. And you don't like what I'm saying, you could just click off the YouTube. You can click off the Rumble. You can click off wherever you're listening to, and you can fuck off. I try to be nice. I try to be welcoming. But this Epstein thing is getting old because it's not about the victims. And I'm tired of politicians treating victims as political pawns. My family has been part of the victims of gun violence. And I'm tired of seeing politicians use it as a talking point. And it's the same old pattern. They give you an anonymous source and the unverified rumor when it hurts their political enemy. But when the actual evidence comes out showing the opposite, they bury it on page 20 or mention it in a 30-second clip, hoping you don't notice. Because a lot of you are too fucking stupid, too ignorant, or too blinded to go look for that information. You only want the headlines, and that's it. They ignored the fact that he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago when he realized what was going on with this man. And the documents are out, the receipts are there, and even the activists at ABC couldn't hide it anymore. Trump stepped up while others, Hakeem Jeffries, and many other Democrats stayed silent. Biden stayed silent. Massey stayed silent. Rand Paul stayed silent. That's the reality, and that's the common sense truth. They don't want you to hear, and some people are too goddamn ignorant to get through their head. Now let's talk about the slow motion train wreck happening over at the quote-unquote most trusted name in news. The new data is out, and it's a bloodbath for CNN. According to a report highlighted by John Nolte, the network isn't just losing viewers, it's circling the drain. CNN has lost nearly 2/3 of its primetime audience over the last decade. Back in 2016, they were pulling in about 1.3 million viewers. Today, they're lucky to crack 550,000. That is a catastrophic collapse. Don't let them tell you it's just people switching to streaming. Fox News is still moving the needle, proving there are plenty of appetite for cable news. The reality is that after 10 years of peddling everything from Russian collusion hoax to Jesse Smollett nonsense to the most peaceful narratives of 2020, the American public has simply tuned them out. And they burned through their credibility like a California wildfire. And now there's nothing left but ashes and low ratings. I'm wondering. Shit. I had a graph made. Damn it. Damn. Oh, here it is. Here it is to save the day. All right. I'll admit this is going to be a little bit long going over this list because it's getting super long with the hoaxes out of CNN and other liberal bastions. I know you're going to have trouble seeing this, so let's go over them one at a time. Some of the hoaxes that have come out. Only 14% of deportees are criminals. Canada mass shooter was female. Melania Doc is a box office flop. The Royal Americans can't live without NPR and PBS. The ICE detained a 5-year-old. The Peter Hegseth kill everybody. Trump destroying the White House. Photo of starving Gaza baby. Israel troops murdered food-seeking Palestinians. Trump tariffs will explode prices. Maryland man hoax. Black newborn much more likely to die if Doc is white. Elon Musk Nazi salute. Mass hysterectomies performed on immigrants. That one got him a large lawsuit and got a doctor paid big time money. Yeah, because that's the other thing. You always talk about Fox getting sued over the what Dominion or whatever that damn company is called. But you don't talk about the massive lawsuits, several lawsuits that have gone against MSNBC, now MS Now, and CNN. How many millions upon millions of dollars they've had to pay out. They've had to pay out some large amounts. You only talk about Fox, but never those two. The all-white Trump party. Springfield bomb threat. Trump called for Liz Cheney to be executed. Violent crime down under Biden. Arlington cemetery hoax. Kamala was never America's border czar. Russia collusion. Hands up, don't shoot. Jesse Smollett. Covington KKK kids. Very fine people hoax. 7-hour gap. Russia bounties. Trump trashes troops. Policemen killed at mostly peaceful January 6th protest. Rittenhouse hoax. Eating while black hoax. Border agents whipping illegals. NASCAR noose hoax. Georgia Jim Crow 2.0, which we got another one going again with the Secure Save Act. Trump assaulted Secret Service agents and grabbed the steering wheel of the beast. MAGA assaulted Paul Pelosi. COVID lab leaks theory is racist. Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. Joe Biden will never ban gas stoves. COVID deaths are overcounted is a conspiracy theory. Mass graves of native children in Canada hoax. Trump killed Japanese koi fish. Trump told people to drink bleach. Hamas hospital. If reelected, Trump will execute people. The 900,000 kids hospitalized with coronavirus. Dozens of environmental hoax. The Alpha Bank. Libs of TikTok murdered non-binary teen. Aaron Rodgers, Sandy Hook truther. Bloodbath hoax. Biden sharp as a tack hoax. Iowa poll hoax. What makes this decline even more striking is the speed of it. Networks can weather dips tied to election cycles or breaking news fatigue, but a sustained erosion over nearly a decade points to something deeper. Audience are not just channel surfing. They are making deliberate choices about who they trust, and trust, once lost, is brutally hard to regain. At some point, the question shifts from programming tweaks to structural survival. If advertising dollars continue to follow eyeballs out the door, executives will be forced to make hard decisions, then reshuffling anchors. The brand that once dominated airport lounge and cable lineups now faces a credibility and business crisis that no rebranding alone can fix. Oh, going for another break and come back with our last segment. Folks, this is the anatomy of a modern political warfare, and we're only peeling back the second layer. Don't go anywhere.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe, and here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Don't forget to go to shrmedia.com, check out our articles, and if you want 250 reasons that you should read original source documents shirt. It's a special shirt that's only out for a limited time to celebrate America's 250th birthday. Go to shrmedia.com and click on the link. All right, where are we going to go from here? Spin the wheel of the segments. Let's get on to a tariff shell game that Democrats love talking about. And let's talk about the latest economical gaslighting coming from mainstream media. You've probably seen the headlines screaming that President Trump's tariffs are going to cost the average American household $1,000 a year. ABC, Yahoo Finance, they're all reading from the same script, trying to convince you that the sky is falling and your wallet is about to be empty. I'm kind of confused here because I don't know whether the Democrat Party should change their mascot to be Chicken Little or the little boy who cried wolf, because that's what they do. They're screaming, the sky's falling, and it never happens. But as usual, they're only giving you half the story, and it's the classic shell game. They want you to focus on $1,000 costs while completely ignoring the thousands of dollars in savings coming from the rest of the administration policy. Let's look at the big, beautiful bill. While the media is hyperventilating over tariffs, they're silent on the fact that this bill is putting $1,000 to $2,000 more back into your average family's tax refund. We're talking about no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. If you're a working American, those cuts don't just offset the tariffs, they blow them out of the water. And then there's the energy factor. Because this administration actually believes in American energy independence. Domestic production hit an all-time high in 2025. The result, gas prices are at a 4-year low, averaging around $2.90 a gallon. And in places like Iowa, people have seen it as low as $1.85. Here in Florida, in my area, it's a little bit up more than other areas, and we're mostly around $2.75 a gallon. Maybe $2.79. I've seen it as low as $2.50. Go a little bit further, I can get it cheaper. For the average driver, that's hundreds of dollars in savings every single year that the media refuses to put on the balance sheet. The real goal of these tariffs isn't just revenue. It's rebalancing the scales. We're seeing a massive resurgence in American manufacturing. Companies like Mercedes-Benz, Hyundai, are moving production to the U.S. because they know the era of being undercut by foreign market is over. For the first time in 26 years, U.S. steel manufacturing has actually exceeded Japan's. So when you hear the experts on CN, who we already know are circling the train, telling you that the tariffs are a disaster, remember what they're leaving out. They're ignoring the $9.9 trillion in new investment commitments. They're ignoring the fact that households' buying power is finally moving in the right direction after the disastrous Biden years. They want you to stay focused on the cost of a toaster so you don't notice the massive engine of the American economy roaring back to life. And another thing, America is NATO. We've been told for decades that NATO is a grand alliance of equals, a collective shield where every member carries their weight. Put a bombshell warning from a retired British officer just stripped away the last of that illusion. The warning is stark. If a real-world conflict broke out today, the UK military, one of our supposedly strongest allies, would run out of ammunition in just a matter of days. Not months, not weeks, days. They would run out of ammunition in days. This isn't just a British problem. It is the ultimate proof of the America First argument. For years, European nations have gutted their own defense budget, hollowed out their manufacturing, and allowed their stockpiles to dwindle to nothing, all while hiding behind the taxpayer-funded shadow of the United States. They took their money, they put it into socialist programs because they didn't have to worry about defending their nation because the United States was there to do it for them. We were there to protect them. As they shit all over us, talk bad about us, as we're the ones that are protecting them. The reality is that America isn't just a part of NATO. America is NATO. We're the ones providing the logistics, the hardware, the actual teeth of the alliance, while our partners treat their defense spending like a suggestion rather than an requirement. When a major world power like the United Kingdom admits they can't sustain a fight more than a weekend, they are admitting that their entire national security strategy is simply wait for America to save us. They bash us at every corner anymore, but if something were to happen, they would want American citizens putting their lives on hold to go over there and die for them, as all they've done is fucking bashed us. I am tired. I understand, and I know some people are going to disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. I have no problem that sometimes we have to be the world police. Doesn't mean we always have to on every single subject. But I understand we are the nation that keeps things in check. But you don't bite the hand that feeds you. You don't bite the hand that protects you. That is the stupidest strategy. This is exactly why the pressure for our allies to finally pay their fair share isn't just mean-spirited rhetoric. It's common sense survival. You cannot be the world's only armory when our own borders are ignored and our own resources are stretched thin. Now, I do believe in that. We need to take care of our country first. I believe in America first. That doesn't mean America only. And that's what people get fused with that slogan. America first. It's time for these nations to stop pretending they have a functional military if they don't even have the bullets to back it up. If you can't last a week in a fight, you aren't an ally in a conflict. You're a liability. The era of American taxpayer footing the bill for Europe's lack of preparation has ended. And the next one, this one kind of pissed me off. Justice is being reimagined. We're going to get into a story that I know it's going to make the blood boil of a lot of my listeners. It's a perfect example of what happens when social justice replaces actual justice in our courtroom. A judge has reportedly cut a recommended prison sentence in half for a convicted, unrepentant rapist. And the reason, according to the report, the judge cited the defendant's race as a mitigating factor. Think about that for a second. We're talking about a violent crime, a rape, where the perpetrator has shown zero remorse. And instead of looking at the victim or the brutality of the act, this woke judge decided to look at a demographic chart. The prosecution and the guidelines call for a specific heavy sentence to fit the crime. But the bench decided that equality was more important than accountability. This is the poison of the modern judicial system. We are moving away from blind justice that this country was built on and moving towards a tiered system where your system depends on what color your skin is. And I thought the Democrats were against that. When a judge uses race as a get out of free jail early card for a violent predator, they aren't fixing a system. They're breaking it beyond repair. They're rewarding this kid or this gentleman for raping a woman. They are rewarding him. And it sends a terrifying message to victims that their trauma is secondary to a judge's political worldview. It tells criminals that if they fall into the right category, the law won't apply to them with the same force. We talk about common sense on this show, every show. And common sense tells you that if you committed a heinous, violent act, you serve the time, period. Your race, your background, your politics shouldn't matter when you're standing in front of a judge for a crime like this. But in today's world, the scales of justice are being weighed down by ideology, and it's innocent people who are paying the price. Shattering expectations is the next segment, and the last segment, because we're getting close to the ending. The mainstream media is busy trying to find a dark cloud in every silver lining. The latest economical data just dropped, and a massive win for the American worker. Trump is taking a well-deserved victory lap After the newest jobs numbers didn't just meet expectation, they absolutely shattered them. Despite the constant drumbeat of doom and gloom from the experts, the private sector is surging. We are seeing a historic shift in the labor market. When the administration has been aggressively cutting the federal workforce, bringing it down to levels we haven't seen since the 1960s, the private sector has picked up the slack and then some. This is exactly what common sense economic looks like. You shrink the bloated, unproductive government bureaucracy and get out of the way so that the American engine can actually run. The media wants to talk about uncertainty, but the numbers tell a different story. Businesses are hiring, manufacturing is returning, and the help wanted sign is being filled by people who are finally seeing their wages outpace inflation. We were told that the administration's policy on tariffs and deregulations would lead to a cooling economy. Instead, we're seeing the opposite. We are seeing revitalization of the domestic industrial base. When you pair these numbers with the fact that gas prices are plummeting and tax refunds are growing, the narrative that the economy is struggling starts to look like just another hoax. The bottom line is that strategy of putting American interests first is working. You can't argue with results, and you certainly can't argue with a private sector that is growing at this pace while the government finally learns to live within its means. I thought I was going to come up short, but I didn't. I still had 3 more segments to go, but it's time for the wrap up, people. Actually, let me see what time is it. I might be able to fit one more in. Yeah, I think we can. We've spent decades watching the national debt climb higher and higher, with politicians on both sides of the aisle treating the Treasury like the bottomless ATM. But it looked like there's finally an adult in the room who knows how to use a red pen. A top economical advisor for the Trump administration has just revealed the numbers for year one. Year one. And they are stunning. We are looking at massive real-world deficit cuts that haven't been seen in generations. While the experts in the media claim the tax cuts and tariffs would blow a hole in the budget, the opposite is happening. The strategy is simple but effective. You stop the bleeding by cutting the bloated federal bureaucracy, and you grow the economy so fast that the revenue takes care of itself. We aren't just talking about slowing the growth of the deficit, which is the usual DC line. We are talking about actual, tangible cuts to the overspending that has been choking this country for years. This is the power of a business model mindset in the White House. When you treat the government budget like a balance sheet that actually has to balance, you start finding the green new scam projects and the billions in waste that have been hidden in the couch cushions of the federal government for far too long. The media doesn't want to report this because it destroys their narratives that administration is reckless. There is nothing more responsible than ensuring our children aren't born with a mountain of debt they can never pay off. They said it couldn't be done. They said the deficit would skyrocket, and once again, the results are proving them wrong. It's fiscal sanity, and it's about time. Tonight wasn't about one headline. It wasn't about one senator, one network, or one viral exchange. It was a pattern. When the narrative starts cracking, the people who built their careers on controlling it start scrambling. We looked at fracture inside the Democrat Party on national security. We looked at the media machine losing viewers after years of pushing stories that collapsed under scrutiny. We looked at economical data that contradicts the doom loop talking point. And we looked at what happened when political theater runs into cold, documented facts. Here's the common sense thread. Accountability is undefeated. Eventually, the numbers come out, the documents drop, the ratings fall, the receipts surface. And when that happens, all that left is the truth. And that's what the show is about. No spin, no narrative gymnastics, just connecting the dots the way they actually lined up. And if you want more, we have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. on the East Coast. Edge of Liberty, Sackhead Sean every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. 11 p.m. on the right coast. Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, noon on the East Coast. And, of course, Reaver Common Sense with me, Jersey Joe, every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. on the right coast. And this is where we're going to leave it tonight. This is the Reaver Common Sense on SHR Media, conservative media done right, where truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. We'll see you next time.